You ever walk into a room and feel like someone's been talking about you? Not a gut feeling. I mean literal talking. Words hanging in the air like smoke, just long enough to make you stop in your tracks and think, wait, was that for me? That was the vibe I got the first time Alexa answered a question I didn't ask. It was late, maybe 10:30 p.m., and I was grabbing my laptop charger from the guest room. Quiet house, chilly floorboards, all the usual horror movie trimmings. I just bent down to unplug the cord when I heard it. A little chirp from the Echo Dot on the nightstand, followed by her soft robotic voice. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat it? Nobody else was in the room. No TV. No podcast playing in the background. Just me, standing there like a deer in cargo shorts. At first, I figured it was a glitch. Alexa gets jumpy sometimes. Thinks someone whispered her name when it was really just the wind or a creaky floorboard. I shrugged it off. Until it happened again. This time, I was upstairs in our bedroom, brushing my teeth, and I heard it through the vents. Alexa, clear as day, downstairs in the guest room. Okay, playing Lover's Delight playlist on Spotify. Now, unless our home assistant was feeling extra romantic, that didn't make a damn bit of sense. I asked Jenna about it the next morning. She was making her usual kale and misery smoothie, earbuds in, humming along to something auto-tuned. Hey, did you mess with the Echo in the guest room recently? I asked. She blinked. What? No. What? It started playing music last night. I think someone might have left a playlist running. She shrugged, way too casual. Maybe it glitched. Or maybe it was you, forgetting you told it something. That didn't sit right. Mostly because Jenna hated that room. We'd rented this place 6 months ago, an old, refurbished farmhouse about 30 minutes outside of town. Her idea. Rustic with character, she called it. What she meant was Instagrammable with enough charm to hide the mold. It was pretty enough, exposed beams, clawfoot tub, wraparound porch. The guest room was part of the original house, still creaked like it remembered ghosts. She'd barely been in there since we moved. Claimed it gave her weird vibes. And yet somehow, it was suddenly her favorite place to play Spotify's horniest playlist at midnight? Right. That day, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I opened the Alexa app on my phone. Normally, I used it for dumb stuff, turning lights off remotely, adjusting the thermostat without getting out of bed. But buried in the settings was a feature I'd forgotten about. Voice history. Every single thing spoken to Alexa. Every command. Every whisper. Every audio file. Logged and saved with timestamps and playback. I scrolled. At first, it was boring. Play NPR. Set a timer. What's the weather? Basic, harmless. Then I hit a log from 3 nights ago. 11:47 p.m. I pressed play. My wife's voice, clear as day. Play something soft. He just left. I stared at the screen. Scroll. Tap. Next recording. You have 15 minutes. Make it count. Another. No. Harder. I don't care if it squeaks. Followed by laughter. I sat down. It was like opening a secret drawer in your own house and finding a tape recorder full of whispered betrayal. She wasn't just using the guest room. She was hosting in it. And Alexa, bless her artificial little heart, had kept a perfect diary of the entire thing. There were over a dozen recordings. Some short, some full monologues. At one point she even asked, "Is this the same bed from last time, or did they change it?" Then she giggled and said, "I like it better when it feels dirty." I didn't know whether to laugh or throw my phone through the window. Instead, I did what any tech-savvy husband would do. I exported the audio files, saved them to a folder on my cloud drive, and gave the album a name that felt appropriate. Echoes. The rest of the day was a blur. Jenna went to yoga, claimed she had a double session for mental clarity. I said nothing, just nodded and watched her walk out the door like everything was normal. She was good at that, acting like the world didn't exist if she didn't acknowledge it. Like consequences were just optional side quests. I used to find it charming. Now it just made me feel stupid. I made dinner that night. Something bland. She didn't notice I hadn't eaten. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're quiet today." I smiled and said, "Just tired." That night, I stayed up late. The guest room door was cracked open. I stared at the bed like it was radioactive. I'd replaced the sheets, sprayed everything down, opened the windows. Still felt wrong. I replayed the audio files, listened for patterns, and then I heard it. A name. Buried deep in one of the recordings, after a rustle of sheets, Jenna's voice whispered, "God, I missed you, Dylan." Dylan. I didn't know a Dylan. I checked her contacts. No Dylan. Checked Facebook, Instagram. No Dylan in her recent follows. No messages. No DMs. But I'm not stupid. You don't leave real names on the surface when you're dirty deep. So I dug deeper. Opened our Airbnb history. Jenna and I had booked the farmhouse under a joint account. But I noticed something strange. A second Airbnb reservation had been made 2 weeks ago. Same house. Different name. A D. Callahan. The payment? A gift card. Anonymous. I opened the listing. Same house. Our house. She had booked our own damn guest room under a fake profile and scheduled visits while I was away for work. My brain just flatlined for a second. Who the hell cheats in their own home by renting their own guest room? Answer. Someone who's done this before. I clicked through D. Callahan's profile. No photo. No reviews. But one note left by a host said, "Prompt guest. Left the place spotless." Of course he did. I sat back. Jenna was good. Slick. Calculated. She'd built a private little stage and thought no one would ever peek behind the curtain. But she made one mistake. She forgot Alexa was always listening. And I wasn't about to let her silence that voice. No, I was going to amplify it. For an audience. The question was, who? That's when I remembered her cousin Melissa. Sweet girl. Pregnant. 6 months along. Always fawning over Jenna like she was some goddess of domestic life. Melissa's husband? Name, Dylan. Suddenly, every puzzle piece clicked into place. The ghost guest. The hidden name. The reason Jenna was suddenly so interested in prenatal vitamins and baby names. She wasn't curious. She was jealous. Or maybe territorial. Either way, I had the final ingredient. And revenge? Was about to echo. The thing about betrayal is it rarely happens in some grand, cinematic moment. There's no dramatic music, no slow-motion gasp. Most of the time, it's subtle, surgical. It creeps in through the cracks you thought were solid, lays down roots in the ordinary. In our case, it crept in through Alexa, buried itself in a playlist called Lover's Delight, and whispered its dirty secrets into a house I paid to renovate. Dylan. The name stuck in my head like a splinter. Melissa's husband. 6 months pregnant Melissa, the human embodiment of glowing and grateful, who once cried over a gender reveal cake because she was just so thankful, who had Jenna saved in her phone as my soul cousin revolving hearts. And Dylan, the quiet one, never drank much, always smiled a little too wide. The kind of guy you forget is in the room until he says something weirdly specific about your plumbing and then disappears to take a call. I'd always assumed he was just awkward. Now I realized he was sneaking off to coordinate illicit check-ins at my own damn guest room. I needed confirmation. Not from Jenna. She'd just lie. And not from Dylan. If the man was ballsy enough to book our own house through Airbnb like a sleazy Bond villain, I didn't trust a word out of his mouth. No, I needed the kind of confirmation that didn't care about lies, data. I pulled the Alexa voice logs again, cross-referenced with the Airbnb account history, and lined it up with Jenna's phone GPS history. Courtesy of the family tracking app, she forgot we both still had installed. It was all there. Every booking Dylan made matched with days Jenna just had to stay home to supervise the HVAC guy, or claim she was writing from the porch. Her location would sit idle at the farmhouse while mine was pinging away at meetings downtown. The kicker? She texted me selfies from those days. All smiles and miss you, with a latte in hand, and that worn quilt she only pulled out when she was trying to look effortlessly cozy. God, the nerve. I downloaded everything. The logs, the GPS data, the texts, even the guest check-in confirmations. I put it all in a folder titled Jenna's Theater because that's what it was. A performance. A routine. The curated illusion of a loving wife layered over the reality of a woman who turned our guest room into her personal porn set. And now, I had a stage of my own. Enter. Operation Echo. Step 1. Set the trap. I logged into our joint Airbnb account and created a fake listing, something I'd mocked up months earlier as a joke. The ultimate romantic farmhouse retreat, rustic luxury meets countryside comfort. I marked it as unavailable to the public, then sent it directly to Jenna under the guise of a promotional giveaway. She took the bait in under 6 minutes. She replied with, "This is so cute, OMG. Should we go?" with 3 hard eyes emojis and one of those sparkly pink ones like she was trying to seduce the text box. I told her I'd already booked it as a surprise. For us, a weekend getaway to reconnect. I watched her smile at her phone from across the room like she just got proposed to. Step 2. Expand the invite. This was key. I reached out to Melissa, Jenna's cousin, Dylan's wife, and told her the same story. That we were throwing a surprise thank you weekend for the family, a little couple's retreat as a gift for all their support lately. I said Jenna had no idea. I made it sound like some corny romantic gesture. Melissa cried on the phone. I just love how thoughtful you are, she said. She's lucky to have you. Yeah, that's one word for it. I invited her. Her parents. Jenna's aunt and uncle. Even her old college roommate who now lived 2 hours away and always posted thirst traps and hiking boots. I made it sound lavish. Promised wine tastings, spa treatments, the whole fantasy. They all said yes. Step 3. Rig the house. I bought a Bluetooth speaker the size of a paperback and slid it behind the headboard in the guest room. Programmed it to loop a sequence of audio files, all pulled directly from Alexa's history. Whispered moans. Dirty talk. That one cursed clip where Jenna said, "You always know how to break the rules, don't you, Dylan?" Set on a smart timer. Scheduled to start at 7:45 p.m., right after dinner. Just loud enough to carry through the thin farmhouse walls. Just long enough to catch attention before anyone could turn it off. Step 4. Wait. The weekend arrived fast. Jenna packed like we were going to Europe. Sundresses. Lingerie. 3 bottles of wine. Just in case we get bored, she said with a wink that almost made me laugh. We drove up on Friday evening. She gushed about how peaceful it looked. How romantic the fields were. How cozy the porch felt. She had no clue. Until her cousin Melissa's SUV pulled up behind us. Then another car. Then another. I acted surprised. Oh wow, I didn't know they'd all make it. She blinked. Wait, what? They all wanted to be here, I said. Thought it'd be nice. You know, family weekend. Like old times. She looked like she'd swallowed a live wasp. Melissa ran up and hugged her. I'm so excited. This was the sweetest idea ever. Dylan's parking now. And there it was. Her face. The color drained, then returned in blotches. Eyes scanning the driveway like she'd just spotted a sniper on the roof. But she smiled. She had to. Cameras were out. Everyone was hugging. It was all smiles and awe, and we needed this. Dinner was pasta. Jenna barely ate. Dylan said nothing. Melissa glowed like a lantern. At 7:43, I stood up. I'll clear dishes. You all relax. I went to the guest room and flipped the speaker to on. Then I walked back out. 7:45. Right on cue. The sound started, soft at first. A breath. Then a whisper. God, you feel amazing. Chairs shifted. Do you think he suspects anything? Forks hit plates. Don't stop. I don't care if he hears. Melissa froze. Dylan paled. Jenna shot up like her chair had been electrified. What is that? Someone asked. I stayed silent. Then the final line played. You're the only man who's ever really filled me, Dylan. Silence. Absolute. Utter. Dead. Silence. Melissa stood. She turned to Dylan. Say something. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then Jenna spoke. It's not what? Melissa slapped her. Not hard. Not loud. But sharp enough to snap the air in half. Jenna gasped. Hands went to her face. Everyone stared. Melissa just looked at me. Did you know? I nodded. For how long? Long enough to give you front row seats. She didn't cry. She just walked out the door. Everyone followed. Dylan stayed frozen. Jenna sank into her chair like it might protect her from reality. But nothing could now. I walked to the speaker, turned it off, and looked her in the eye. You could have picked anyone, I said. And you picked family. She opened her mouth, but I was already gone. Outside, I could hear Melissa vomiting into the hydrangeas. Dylan was sitting on the porch steps, head in hands. Jenna stayed in the house alone, which was fair. It was the house she turned into a brothel. Now it was hers. Empty. And echoing. The sound of a slap in a small farmhouse hits different. Maybe it's the acoustics, the wooden walls, the hollow floors, the fact that sound carries like gossip in a church pew. Either way, when Melissa's hand met Jenna's cheek and half the family stormed out of that dinner, it didn't just echo, it reverberated. Through the house. Through everyone's stomach. Through Jenna's entire carefully curated facade. And me? I just stood there, watching it collapse. She stayed frozen for a few minutes, probably hoping it was all a nightmare. That she'd wake up back in our room, in her overpriced throw blanket, and find that none of this had happened. But reality doesn't offer snooze buttons. especially not when your betrayal's been playing on loop for your pregnant cousin and both your aunts to hear. After Melissa peeled out of the driveway in her Subaru, tires crunching gravel like bones, the rest of the guests followed, awkward and stunned. Nobody said goodbye. Not to me. Not to Jenna. No, thanks for having us. No, we'll talk later. Just silence and engine noise. Eventually, Jenna turned to me. You planned that. I leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed. No kidding. She blinked, still stunned. Her voice wavered. You invited them here. Just to humiliate me. No. I said, cool as a fridge. I invited them here so they could hear the truth. The humiliation? That was all you. She opened her mouth to fight, to scream, to sob. But there was nothing left to say. Her excuses had dried up faster than her mascara in the aftermath. She walked to the sink, braced herself, and took 3 deep breaths like she was about to perform open-heart surgery. I left her there. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset. I wasn't. But because the adrenaline from watching a 6-month revenge plan detonate in real time doesn't exactly pair well with melatonin. So I made coffee, sat on the porch, listened to the wind and the occasional possum scuffle in the bushes. Jenna never came upstairs. She stayed in the guest room. How poetic. The room where she moaned Dylan's name, where she whispered about how dangerous this feels, was now her bunker. Her shame-soaked sanctuary. She closed the door, probably hoping the walls would forget. But I didn't. Morning came gray and quiet. I took my time, packed my bag, made breakfast, and left her a note on the fridge. Not a breakup letter. Not some tear-stained, you hurt me manifesto. Just a simple reminder. You've got until Monday to move your stuff. After that, the locks change. I drove home, the real home, and didn't hear from her for 2 days. On the 3rd day, she called. I didn't pick up. She texted instead. I messed up. I know. Can we please talk before this goes any further? Further? Lady, we pass further somewhere around. Alexa, play my favorite sin. I ignored it. Then came the second message. I just need to explain. Please. I don't want to lose everything. You'd think this was the part where I got sentimental. Maybe thought about the good times. The nights we danced in the kitchen, the holidays, the one time we slow-cooked a brisket that didn't taste like regret. But no. Because none of that matters when the same lips that kissed your forehead turned around and whispered, harder, Dylan, into your guest room walls. Instead of replying, I went back to the Alexa app, opened the Echoes folder. There was one file I hadn't used. I'd saved it as backup, a little ace tucked in my sleeve in case things went sideways. In this one, Jenna's voice was quieter, breathier, like she was trying not to wake someone up. I don't even feel guilty anymore. That's the worst part. I just feel alive. Like finally, I matter. That was the one. That was going to be her legacy. Now, don't get me wrong. I wasn't planning on plastering it across billboards or anything. I'm not that petty. But I knew exactly where to send it. Melissa. I forwarded her the audio with no message. Just the timestamp, the same way you'd share a favorite song or a viral clip. She replied in less than 2 minutes. Wow. Then, I think I just threw up again. Then finally, thank you for not letting her get away with it. A few hours later, I got a text from Peter, Rachel's ex, from the last story. Yeah, turns out these betrayals have a way of circling back around. Small world when you're surrounded by liars. He said, did Jenna really sleep with Melissa's husband? Damn, I didn't reply. Didn't need to. People talk. Especially when the truth sounds like tabloid fiction. Later that night, I checked Jenna's Instagram. Still public. Still curated. Still pretending the sky wasn't falling around her like broken champagne glasses. But the captions were changing. Less inspirational. More vague. One post said, sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself again. Broken heart herb. Another, silence is the loudest scream. Okay, Shakespeare. Her followers were divided. Some sympathetic. Some confused. One asked, did something happen at the farmhouse? Which got deleted within an hour. And the best part? Dylan's profile disappeared. Just gone. Melissa had nuked it. His last post, now cached in Google Preview, had been a selfie with her at a baby shower. Captioned, can't wait to meet our little one. Yikes. Guess they'll be meeting it on separate custody schedules now. By Sunday, Jenna texted again. I'm moving out Monday. I'll leave the keys under the mat. Then, I hope someday you'll remember the good parts. I read that one twice. Because here's the thing, there were good parts. There were mornings we stayed in bed too long, laughed so hard we cried. Times she looked at me like I was the only person in the room. That stuff was real. But so were the whispers. So were the moans. So was Dylan. And the good parts? They died the moment she chose to betray them in a playlist labeled Lover's Delight. On Monday, I came back to the farmhouse. She was gone. Left behind were the usual artifacts of someone who wants to pretend they left clean. Folded towel, empty coffee mug in the sink, one of those little herb plants that always dies after 3 weeks. I walked room to room. Everything smelled like silence. But in the guest room, the speaker was still there. I pressed play. One last time. And there it was. Her voice. Breathless. Selfish. Unrepentant. I just feel alive. I turned it off. Then opened the window. Let the echoes finally escape. When someone burns down their own life, there's a strange kind of peace in watching them sift through the ashes with their bare hands. That's where Jenna was now. The dust had settled. The messages had stopped. Her name had slid off everyone's tongues like an expired trend. No one wanted to be associated with that cousin anymore. Not after the farmhouse. Not after the recording. Not after Melissa posted a cryptic but very pointed Instagram reel called The Death of Trust, set to Billie Eilish and featuring exactly 0 photos of Jenna in the family montage. As for me, I wasn't angry. Not anymore. There's no satisfaction in rage when you've already won. It's like screaming at someone you've already outplayed in chess and who's now trying to figure out how the horse-shaped piece moves. But I wasn't quite done, either. Because Jenna still had her favorite coping mechanism in her back pocket, the clean slate. New city, new account, new narrative. She'd done it before, back in college, when she ghosted her old roommate after a stolen boyfriend scandal and reinvented herself as that chill girl who doesn't do drama. And she was doing it again now. I found out through a mutual friend. Apparently, she'd moved in with some friends across the state, in one of those artsy little towns with too many thrift stores and not enough parking. Her new Instagram handle was @Jenna Lives Loud. I'm not even joking. And her feed was full of curated shots of vegan brunches, wine tastings, and her smiling under quotes like, "I don't chase, I attract." Sure. Except the only thing she attracted was a restraining order worth of burned bridges. But the worst part? She was building a following. Just a few hundred people. Then 1,000. Then 2. Her captions became miniature sermons. Pseudo-inspirational garbage dressed up in script fonts and beach backgrounds. Healing is not linear, but it's mine. You can't shame a woman who already faced herself. Rebirth is louder than betrayal. Every post felt like a slap to the face of truth. And I realized something. This woman wasn't just trying to move on. She was trying to rewrite history. Turn herself into the wounded hero in a story she authored in crayon. So I made a decision. One final project. One last echo. See, during the months of tracking, logging, and quietly documenting the unraveling of my marriage, I hadn't just saved files. I'd built something. A narrative. A timeline. A literal archive of betrayal, from the first voice command Alexa misheard to the exact second Melissa's hand met Jenna's cheek. And now, I was going to tell the story, but not as a rant, not as a revenge dump, as something cleaner, colder, truth, disguised as a cautionary tale. I wrote it all out, changed the names, removed identifiers, cleaned up the audio so no faces were attached, just voices. I turned the transcripts into narration, crisp, minimal, neutral. Then I synced them to visuals, moody footage of empty rooms, foggy fields, the back of a woman's head walking down a dirt path alone. I made a short film, just under 8 minutes, titled it The Guest Room, uploaded it to a new YouTube channel I'd created months ago under a pseudonym. A simple black and white logo. No face. No location. Posted the video. I didn't promote it. Didn't tag it. Just let it sit. Within a week, it had 5,000 views. By week 2, 20,000. Then it got picked up by a Storytime TikTok creator. One of those whisper-talking narrators who builds drama with slow zooms and ominous music. She called it the creepiest real-life betrayal I've ever heard. The comments poured in. This gave me chills. I think I know who this is. Eyes. She really said, "Harder, Dylan," on a smart speaker and thought she was slick? One said, "Imagine this is your voice and your whole family hears it." Couldn't be me. I laughed at that one. Because it had been her. And it had been heard. Jenna didn't know yet. But I knew the clock was ticking. And right on schedule, week 3, she posted a story. It was just her, sitting in a coffee shop, no filter, visibly stressed. Captioned, weird stuff going around. People suck. Don't believe every anonymous post you see. I knew I had her. Because guilt always outs itself. She posted less after that. Her follower count stalled. The hashtag Healing Queen hashtag dried up. But then something truly poetic happened. Melissa. She started her own account. Not out of spite. Not even to call Jenna out. But to reclaim space. Her first post? A sonogram photo. Caption. Coming this fall. Just us two. Stronger than ever. No Dylan in sight. He'd vanished. But the comments? They were beautiful. Wow, you're glowing. So proud of you. Some people don't deserve a second chance. You do. And there, buried deep in the likes, one from Jenna. Not a comment. Just a silent, accidental heart. The kind of click you make when you're hate scrolling at 2 a.m., pretending you're over it. I screenshot it. Saved it in the folder labeled Final Echo. Because now, the story was complete. Jenna could keep posting her brunches and her barefoot yoga pics. She could keep selling her version of the truth to anyone who didn't know better. But anyone who looked close enough, anyone who stumbled across that video, they'd know. Not the names, not the faces, but the feeling. The betrayal that didn't just happen in whispers or in the dark. It happened out loud, with receipts, with timestamps, with echoes. And Jenna? She'll never know when the next person in her life recognizes that voice. There's a moment, somewhere between the final betrayal and the quiet aftermath, where the air stops feeling heavy. It doesn't feel good, exactly. Just lighter. Like something toxic's finally bled out of the room. That's where I was now. In the eye of the storm I built myself, watching Jenna spiral while the world kept moving without her. It had been a month since I dropped the guest room on YouTube. Views were still climbing. Slow burn. People love slow burns, especially when they're laced with mystery and regret. Every now and then I'd check the comment section, not because I needed validation, but because there's something satisfying about strangers piecing together the bones of a story and gasping at the same beats you lived through. One comment stood out. Honestly, I'd be more scared of this narrator than the cheater. Dude's cold as ice. Yeah, that tracked. But it wasn't about fear or punishment. It was about documentation, about preservation. Jenna wanted to rewrite the past in self-help quotes and Etsy fonts. I preferred audio files and timestamps. To each their own. What I didn't expect was how deep the video would dig into her life without me lifting a finger. See, viral stories don't stay anonymous for long. Especially not when someone feels seen. Jenna started getting DMs. I knew because a mutual friend, one of those floaters who never picks sides but loves drama like oxygen, sent me screenshots. The messages were wild. Some were subtle. This sounds oddly familiar. Any truth to it? Some were direct. You seriously cheated with your pregnant cousin's husband? And my personal favorite. Girl, you said he just left to a smart speaker. She blocked them, of course. Claimed it was online bullying. Reported a few accounts. But you can't block shame. You can't mute memory. She deleted 5 posts. Then 10. Then made her profile private. Just like that. The great reinvention of @Jenna. Lives. Loud fizzled into digital exile. The brand died the same way her marriage did, quietly, under the weight of her own choices. I thought that might be the end of it. But then came the podcast. Yeah, apparently, the guest room got picked up by a niche relationship podcast called Red Flag Radio. 2 women in their 30s, sipping wine and dissecting messy relationship stories like they were crime scenes. Episode title, The Echoes of Infidelity. I listened out of curiosity, and because I'm petty. They played snippets from the video, bleeped out names, and spent 20 minutes speculating on how calculated someone would have to be to pull off a revenge arc like that. They called me stone cold. A little terrifying. One said I sounded like I read Machiavelli for fun. I chuckled at that. Then they started debating morality. Is it too far? One asked. Absolutely not, the other replied. She got exactly what she earned. That part stuck with me. She earned it. And now, she lived with it. I hadn't heard from Jenna since she left the key under the mat. That was the deal. She wanted space. I gave her the whole damn county. But I still had tabs open, not just metaphorically. Literally. She never changed the shared Apple ID. Rookie mistake. So while she deleted her socials, she forgot about her location tracking, which meant I knew exactly when she made her next mistake. Saturday, 11:38 p.m. Downtown bar. tagged as Bistro Noir. She was meeting someone. I could tell. There were patterns, quick arrival, 2-hour dwell time, and then a ping at a hotel 6 blocks away. Nothing about that was illegal, but it told me something. She hadn't changed. She was still chasing the next secret. Still convinced that the problem wasn't her choices, just the people who found out about them. So I made a choice of my own. One more page. One more echo. I printed everything. Not digitally. Not uploaded. Actual paper. Tactile. Real. A physical envelope. Black. Unmarked. Just thick enough to feel serious. Inside, a full transcript of the Alexa audio. Every word. Every moan. Every whisper. No context. No introduction. Just raw, typewritten truth. I mailed it to her new address. She didn't know I had it. She'd moved 2 weeks earlier, another fresh start. But our joint rental application had gone through before I scrubbed my name from the lease. Paper trails are a beautiful thing. It arrived on a Thursday. She didn't post about it. Didn't text. But 2 days later, her old roommate, the same one she ditched after stealing a boyfriend in college, messaged me. Said Jenna was losing it. Said she screamed for 45 straight minutes and tried to burn the envelope in the sink. Fire alarms went off. They got a warning from the landlord. Good. Let her taste what she served. But even that wasn't the final nail. That came a week later. Melissa's baby shower. It was small, family only. Post-drama, low-key, no fanfare. But somehow Jenna found out. She wasn't invited. She showed up anyway. Said she just wanted to talk. Melissa met her on the porch, visibly pregnant, visibly done. I didn't see it in person, but I saw the photo. A guest posted it in a story, didn't realize the tension, probably thought it was just cousins reuniting. But if you looked close, you could see it. Jenna, standing on the steps, holding a baby gift she clearly didn't expect to hand over. Melissa, arms folded, staring down like a bouncer at a club she didn't want to let her into. Caption: Family is everything teddy bear 2 hearts. You could almost hear the subtext screaming. Jenna left after 5 minutes. Alone. Gift still in hand. Another bridge incinerated. And me? I was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, watching it all unfold through borrowed screenshots and quiet satisfaction. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about erosion. Every lie she built a future on, gone. Every person she leaned on for a new story, gone. Every exit, closed. She'd burned it all, and she didn't even get warmth. That's the thing about echoes. They don't stop when the sound does. They linger. They repeat. They remind. And Jenna was haunted by her own. There's a funny thing that happens once you burn everything down. At first, people stare at the flames, shocked, curious, maybe even a little impressed. But when the smoke clears, nobody wants to stand in the ashes with you. That's where Jenna lived now, in the scorched remains of her own narrative, desperately clutching a story nobody wanted to hear anymore. 3 months had passed since the guest room echoed her last confession. Since her family turned their backs. Since her social circle went from hype squad to spectators. Since Dylan disappeared so cleanly you'd think he never existed. Deleted socials, disconnected number, not even a forwarding address for child support inquiries. Real magic act. And Jenna? She was still trying to pivot. I know because I kept watching, not obsessively, not out of some lingering pain. No, it was clinical by now. Scientific. Like observing a species in extinction, watching how it reacts when the water runs out. She tried another rebrand. Deleted her old profiles. Created a Substack newsletter called The Unbreakable Woman. I kid you not. First issue. Why forgiveness is the most radical act of self-love. Sure, Jenna. Especially when your version of forgiveness involves blocking anyone who brings up your past and pretending your cousin's baby doesn't have your affair partner's eyes. But I'll admit, I was curious. I subscribed, just to see what she'd say next. Over the weeks, she trickled out essays. Soft focus pieces about grief and growth, letting go of old skin, and the occasional veiled jab at people who weaponize your mistakes instead of letting you evolve. One even read. Sometimes the most painful chapters are the ones that free us. I've made mistakes. I've been punished for them. But I will not be defined by the worst parts of my story. Cute. Almost made me want to clap. But the problem wasn't that she made mistakes. It's that she never owned them. Never named them. Never looked at the crater and said, yeah, I hit the button. Instead, she tried to turn it into a TED Talk. So I did something I hadn't done in a while. I reached out. Not with venom. Not with threats. With facts. I sent her a message. Short. Clinical. Clean. You want to move on? Start by naming what you did. Not the vague version. The truth. She read it instantly. Didn't respond for 3 days. Then, finally, she replied. I'm not sure what you want from me. I've apologized. I've changed. You clearly haven't. There it was. The same pattern. The same blame shifting. The emotional aikido she used on everyone else. Just less convincing now that she had no allies. I almost left it there. But the story needed one more note. So I sent her a link. Not to a new video. Not to an expose. To a page on the same YouTube channel where the guest room lived. The video was titled Addendum. Just me. One take. Black screen. My voice. Sometimes, the ones who hurt us the most never say the words we need to hear. So we say them for them. This is what I would have wanted to hear. Not for closure, but for clarity. Then I read it. The letter Jenna should have written. Not for me. For Melissa. For herself. For every person who ever trusted her with something fragile. I wrote it like a script. Honest. Brutal. No embellishment. Just truths in her tone. An imagined apology she'd never give. I slept with your husband while you were pregnant. I lied to your face. I smiled at your baby's shower, knowing I was the betrayal growing beside your child. I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I was never the person I pretended to be. And you deserved better. I didn't tag her. Didn't share it. Just posted it and let it sit. Within a week, it had 100,000 views. Thousands of comments. Some thought it was real. Some thought it was fictional. Didn't matter. Because the message landed. And Jenna? She saw it. I know because 2 days later, her Substack disappeared. Every post deleted. Profile blank. Unsubscribe confirmation hit my inbox with no fanfare. Poof. Gone. No goodbye post. No taking a break for mental health. Just digital vapor. It felt final. The last echo. I closed the laptop. Went out for a walk. The world was quiet. Peaceful. The farmhouse had been sold to a couple with kids, judging by the new swing set. I passed it sometimes. Never stopped. Just nodded to the new life blooming there. A reminder that even haunted places can breathe again. As for me, I stayed quiet. No new projects. No more exposés. I didn't need to. Jenna had told her story. Then I told mine. But the truth? It spoke for itself. In whispers. In loops. In guest rooms and dinner parties and baby showers. It echoed. And somewhere out there, Jen is still hearing it. Every time someone side-eyes her in a yoga class. Every time she meets a new friend who says, "Wait, weren't you?" Every time a silence grows too thick in the room and her heart races just a little too fast. That's the real revenge. Not the broadcast. Not the humiliation. Not even the loss. It's the knowing that no matter how many times she deletes her past, it always finds her. One voice command at a time. End of Echoes in the Guest Room. Subscribe to the channel